Surprisingly, I like more than Tokusatsu. But I try to include it with a lot of things. I do.
Marcosatsu.
I feel like there's a lot of intersection, crossovers, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to certain media. For example, I've seen a lot of crossover between wrestling fans and tokusatsu fans, and I don't think I should be surprised by that. And of course, I want to say if you enjoy Power Rangers, Kamen Rider, you love superheroes in general, you love nerdy things, you love geeky things. I love geeky things. And one geeky thing I absolutely adore are tabletop RPGs. I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I always interchange Dungeons and Dragons and TTRPGs together. I just think D&D is a lot easier to say, and it's a lot easier for the YouTube algorithm. So if you hear me interchange between them, I'm meaning the same thing. And of course, that means I had to have my own D&D campaign focused on tokusatsu, superheroes, a lot of these tropes. But first, normally you don't get to see behind me since, well, it's behind me and I'm on the center of the video, but my bookshelf surprisingly has books. You only get to see the top two, but the bottom part has a few surprises. For one, bag of holding, a mimic pouch for all my dice. Gosh, I have way too much dice. My D&D books. And weirdly, how I started wasn't by traditional D&D. One day my friends were hanging out and one of them just out of nowhere says, "Hey, let's play D&D." And none of us knew how to do it before. Like, I've only known Dungeons and Dragons through like the nerdy role play stuff, big old table with like their maps and stuff, but I didn't know really how to play it or what to do or anything like that. And we were bored, so we all figured, sure, let's try this D&D thing. We had no idea what to do. So my other friend said, "Hey, isn't D&D just plain pretend and we just roll dice sometimes?" And so we all figured, sure, I guess that's D&D. Let's do that. And if you know me, I absolutely love Magic the Gathering. So what we did is that we instead of a table with maps, we just placed these cards face down, and that would be pretty much like our choose your own adventure thing, like choose your own path. So we would start here. I don't know what this is. There's a creature card, so this would be like an encounter, or maybe we would go on like a land card, and this would be like our location. It wouldn't be the exact location, but it would be like the type of location we'd be in, and that was pretty much how we D&D'd. Absolutely not traditional at all. It was incredibly simple. Our system was just like using the strength, dexterity, stats, all that, but just really simple. They were just like single digits, and that was pretty much it. But it was still a lot of fun. And then I figured, hey, I'm interested in D&D. Might as well actually try to learn it. Ironically, this is gonna sound really weird considering a lot of this video has already been about me talking about my love of D&D. I'm not really a fan of the high fantasy, medieval kind of setting. For the most part, I DM instead of be an actual player. But if I ever actually get to play a game, I would love to be a bard. I think bards are like the coolest and they're great, and a team doesn't need them, but they're cool. When it comes to other tabletop RPGs, I've heard a lot about other ones. I've even played like Pathfinder before, but nothing hits the same as just playing Dungeons and Dragons. And then like half a year ago, maybe close to a year ago, I made some tweets talking about how much I like D&D and that I wish there was some Kamen Rider ones. And yeah, people did point out that there are a lot of sci-fi and Kamen Rider or superhero-esque tabletop RPGs. And of course, I went down the rabbit hole. I read up on a lot of these sci-fi superhero ones, and I'll show them on screen which ones I've specifically looked through. And I was even able to reach out to some creators to talk to them about how they made like their Kamen Rider modules and all that. But at the same time, still nothing hit me like the very simplified version that my friends and I played all those years ago. And to reiterate, nothing hit as hard as just rolling dice and role playing. And I just did it myself. I made my own Kamen Rider-esque tabletop RPG. I'm so glad most people said yes and they were down for it, mostly because they didn't know how to play. And that's how you grab them. You just say, "Hey, you want to play some D&D? You don't have to know how to play. I'll teach you. I'll be the DM." So our first party was Keza Henshin, Thomas Jujubi, Ghially, and Ve. And with that settled, I made Henshins and Dragons. In hindsight, it probably shouldn't have been called that because there are no dragons in my campaign. So the character sheets, again, incredibly simple. I just got the stats, the usual stats as you would know, constitution, dexterity, strength, all that. And it was out of a point 50 system, so you would get 50 points and just put them all into your stats. You create your character name, your alignments, your special abilities, your how you look, backstory, all that. And that's it. I'm a simple guy. I do not know anything more than just like this whole long list of numbers and calculations and all these abilities and cooldowns and resets. I don't know, but I like to roleplay. And so with Henshins and Dragons, our very first season or campaign was about trying to fight this really cool OC I made. So I like to say I'm not a creative guy, but now this is where I'm going to gush all about Henshins and Dragons. I'm not this is not going to be coherent at all, but man, you can already tell that I'm just gushing about how much I love to play with these guys. And we have these sessions recorded. You can watch them on their own YouTube channel, Henshins and Dragons, where you'll see actually way more content than you would think. We recorded for a long time. We have lots of videos. We have 2 seasons completed. So yeah, the Henshins and Dragons channel, also with our Twitter and Instagram. The Instagram's run by Keza and Twitter by me. So yeah, we just have a lot of content there already, and you can just go watch it. Yeah, go watch Henshins and Dragons. It is really, really cool. And I commissioned artwork by Yosh. Shout out to them for this campaign. I love it. This is Glaive. He transforms into Kamen Rider Arcus. Man, a saber hater. Am I right? And he just looks so cool. I love it. He is so awesome. And then we have Kamen Rider Sevens. There's some deep lore and backstory between these characters and all that. And so then we have our main party interact with the OCs I make, but also for the love of tabletop RPGs and to make your own story. Of course, I also have to include like cameos with like Kamen Rider Double and like Ultraman and stuff like that. It is a Kamen Rider inspired or Tokusatsu inspired story. So I do try to incorporate these already established characters, like I already said, like the Kamen Riders, Super Sentai, Ultraman, everything you can imagine. But I also try to incorporate a little bit of Kamen Rider Decade and calling them AR versions of these characters or alternate reality versions of these characters. So they're not the exact same characters. Oh my gosh. Geez. Okay, I am getting deep into this lore. Whoops. And it was a little slow at first. It was a little weird since again these were new players. They didn't really know what to do. But then after like 30 minutes or so, they actually got into the swing of things and they loved it. And pretty much every week a lot of us group up and play D&D over Discord, and you would think we would have like a map or something. I don't. We just use voice chat. I record it using a software system to get everybody's separate audio tracks, edit them, and that's it. We don't really do anything fancy. Some people even use like their physical dice. Some people even use just like their physical dice and they're like, "Oh, I got a 1." And I'm like, "Cool. I believe you." Or sometimes we use like a Discord bot to roll for us and all that. And it's just been so much fun. I love interacting and playing with these guys. They're so creative. They're so good at role playing. Keza as Yoko, who is a hybrid human and chicken, is such a creative and fun player to be with, and everybody is just so much fun to play with. So one of my things is that I'm not used to these like month-long adventures or sessions and stuff like that. I've just never really done that. I don't have a reason why. I've just never done that. Well, I am a busy guy. So I try to keep these campaigns short. Season 1 was only 4 episodes long, and each episode's only about half an hour. And season 2 is only 6 episodes, and the longest episode there is only like 50 minutes, but otherwise they're like 30 minutes on average. I'm a storyteller. I can think of a story, at least like the main bullet points that the party can follow, and I push them along when they need help, and most of the time they need help. So they follow a basic story, and that's that. And in season 2, we even incorporated the Desired Grand Prix, so that was really interesting. Although I try to make it unique, I try to make it more separate and try to focus on the party rather than the DGP itself, or really everything outside of the party themselves. That's just how I like to tell stories, I guess. And not only that, but we also have other campaigns aside from tabletop RPGs and Magic the Gathering. I am also a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fan to death. I love it so much. And of course, I had to somehow incorporate D&D and JoJo's together while also giving it a tokusatsu spin. And I called that Stand Gaiden. And it was with new players aside from Keza. And it was focused more on the JoJo's aspects combined with tokusatsu. So pretty much all of the musical references that you would see in JoJo's were actually tokusatsu music references. I believe Kazu's character had a stand called Break the Chain, the Kiva song. And Calvin's stand had the power Game Changer, which was an X8 song. One of the encounters of the week or for the session had Die Set Down. Another one had Climax Jump. And oh man, I just love that campaign. That's honestly one of my favorites. And also really short. It's only a few episodes long, 30 minutes. And since I am not a sane man, I made even more campaigns. Our other side campaign is called Henshins and Royals. I love King Oger, if you couldn't tell from like my 50,000 videos about it, but I love King Oger to death. It is so good. And after that premiere, I was like, hey, let's do that too. That's gonna sound funny, but every time I'm like, hey guys, I have a new idea for a campaign, Keza's usually the first one to be like, I'm down, let's do it. So Keza was like the first person to step up for Henshins and Royals. But I also invited Lavender and Phelps and my longtime friend Otter. And then we had a lot of fun. Otter actually played an Ultraman character, and you can imagine how easy the encounter was. Oh man, I love D&D. And I think the fun part about all this is that everything I try to connect together in some way. So Stan Gaiden and Henshins and Dragons, they're in the same world and in the same universe, if you want to call it that. And then Henshins and Royals is also in the same universe, just on a different planet. Kind of like King Oger. And I try to connect all of it together some way, somehow. We even had some Stan Gaiden character appear in Henshins and Dragons Season 2. I just love connecting stories. They don't have to be overarching, but I just love having a reference or a character here and there to show that this is a living world that we're all playing in. And of course, there's also like the superheroes that they interact with. And as of this video, Season 3 is starting up. This is going to be Henshins and Dragons' last season for this overarching plot, where ever since season 1, the party has heard of someone called the Destroyer of Worlds. So this overarching plot, where it was Henshins and Dragons Season 1 and 2, plus Stan Gaiden, plus a little bit of Henshins and Royals, all of it would culminate into Henshins and Dragons Season 3, to finish off the Destroyer of Worlds plot. And man, to think I did all of this in like early December, and now we have like this whole world and this whole like Discord channel with all of our friends that we just pretty much say something every day, and we just talk and we just enjoy our love of D&D. And hey, I don't think I'm done. I have way more planned if it works out. Editor Gunspawner was editing most of the Henshins and Dragons audio and all that ever since like the beginning of Season 2. And hey, editing costs money. And if things turn out more successful than I hope it will be, then We can keep going for a long time. I'm an ideas guy. I have lots of ideas that I really want to incorporate into this. We even have a few one shots coming up. One with Ghially. We have a Pokemon D&D or D&D campaign planned out. We have a brand new DM with brand new people who are gonna be recording soon, where I finally won't be a DM. Kez is even planning their own campaign, like a Sentai inspired campaign, whereas I'm Kamen Rider, they would be more Sentai inspired, and where I could finally be a player. You know the stereotype, DMs don't play, they just DM. Let the DM play for once. And I think biggest of all, as I've been alluding to this whole video, I've been saying multiple times, I'm not into these long form kind of campaigns. But I think after H&D Season 3, that's my next big plan. To make a really, really long campaign. And I already have ideas for that. I already have a story mapped out for a really long, more like months long, multiple sessions long campaign. I have really good ideas that even includes like getting some NPC players or like some more people to just voice some players like for one's time stuff and all that. And you were probably asking throughout this whole video, how do I get to play Henshins and Dragons? Is there even a manual or a module or a book for Henshins and Dragons? Yes, there is. I made one. Now, this is just an alpha. It is nothing incredibly complicated or anything like that. And as I've been saying a lot, it is incredibly simple. You're probably gonna be like, "Oh, this is barely a tabletop RPG," and yeah, that's the point. It's like it's just getting the bare minimum, and we're just rolling dice and role playing. But you'll probably see on screen that I do have a doc written out or a PDF that has like the Henshins and Dragons lore and our character sheet that was made by a 5-year-old, aka me. But it's up on my Patreon. I've shared it to my friendos, of course. So that's it. I love Dungeons and Dragons, and I don't think I'm gonna stop playing Henshins and Dragons anytime soon. As long as my friends are having fun, as long as the viewers are having fun, as long as you're watching, I will keep playing Henshins and Dragons. Now let me tell you about Magic the Gathering. So this is my Joda deck.